tell me, like, oh, my niece wants to be an actress, I'd be like, yeah, here, give her my phone number, have her call me, I'll talk her out of it. Yeah. And then I realized, she'll find out on her own, you know, and who knows, maybe she'll make it, but she will find out, and it'll sort itself out. There are some people, I'm sure, that, you know, probably do themselves some damage by trying to make it into something that they're simply never going to make it in. And it's not in your control, you know.
Yeah, I've been in this...
To a large degree.
Yeah, I've been in this business for 6 years. I've done radio, theater, community theater, and voiceover work, and it's interesting. And I love being an actor and voice actor. I enjoy it.
Well, good for you. I mean, everybody tells me, not everybody, but a lot of people tell me, like, oh, you've got a great voice. You should do voiceover work. And actors who come out here all get told that. And I don't know how many friends I have that took the voiceover workshop from the person that you've got to take the voiceover workshop from, and had their demo tape made by the person that you've got to have your demo tape made from, and got a voiceover talent agent at William Morris or CAA or something like that, and never booked a job. And I know friends who work quite a bit in voiceover, and almost all of them, so you get a lot of voiceover work. How did you do that? Oh, well, my college roommate wound up being an engineer at a radio station, and he called me up one day, and one thing led to another, you know. And it all seems to be more or less like that. It's pretty hard to break into voiceover work, which is not as easy as you would think it is. The one, well, I did done one or two voiceover gigs, and the one that I did, I got there early. It was at this studio fair ways away, and the guy ahead of me was a extremely successful voiceover actor, you know, made 6 figures a year.
Oh, wow.
And watching him in the studio, he was like a computer. The director's going, about half a second less between this word and this word, and they do another take, and he does half a second less. Every direction, it's like turning knobs on a computer. He was enormously impressed. You know, I'm like, damn, I couldn't do that.
Yeah, it's interesting, and when you watch other actors, you can kind of learn from them too, you know, kind of make it through your thought process, you know, kind of make it into your thing, and it's always good to keep learning. You never stop learning to act and to get more practice, you know. My next question is, let's talk about some of your work, because I'm a fan of a few roles you've done with Full Moon Productions. Yeah.
Well, yeah, the first one that I did, that was just after I got into LA, was Crash and Burn, in which I play this stayed out in the sun too long. And in that one, I learned that it is very difficult to flirt with people when you're made up with, like, giant boils all over your face and stuff. Because you forget you got me. You know, 6 hours later, you've forgotten that you've got makeup on. You're trying to talk up this PA or assistant director or something like that, and they're like, yeah, whatever, man. Then you catch a look at yourself in the mirror and you go, oh, yeah, duh. And a terrific time working on Puppet Master 3.
One of my favorites, yeah, Puppet Master 3.
Well, considered the finest of the Puppet Master movies, I believe. And Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was great to work with Guy Rolfe, who played Toulon, and that he was 80 something at the time.
Wonderful character actor. He was
fantastic. Yeah. Very nice guy. One thing I'll always remember this is a little inside baseball because it refers to film cameras. But in one of the scenes, it was a long day, and we finished this one setup in one part of this church building that we were using for a couple of different sets. And it was like, okay, moving on. And now we're going into, we were leaving this set and moving to the next set. And Guy was just sitting on this stool with this kind of blank expression. And one of the ADs went over and said, Guy, we're moving on now. And Guy just held up one hand and said, shh, I'm reloading. Cameras, sorry, everybody, stop, cut, yeah, reloading. Film the cameras. That was what Guy meant. I guess you had to be there. Richard Lynch was interesting. He was a strange guy. He has passed away. Most of the leads in Puppet Master 3 are no longer with us.
Yeah, most of them have passed. Walter Guy.
I can't remember the guy's name. Aaron something. He just died quite recently.
Ian Abercrombie, Aaron.
Ian was a great guy. Ian and I helped out a lot making the movie. And Richard died 10 or 12 years ago as well. And so I'm kind of flipped. But it was that was a fun one. Blood Dolls was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things I will never forget about that, there's the dwarf, Phil Fondacaro. So my character kept this group of a girl band in a cage, right? And at the end of the movie, and Phil, the dwarf, is the character that sort of works them around. And then at the end of the movie, they get out of the cage, and in one of the alternate endings, the bass player, I think, says, "Hey, Hylas," and boom, whaps him and knocks him across the room with her bass guitar. And this was like a no-budget movie, and they had the effects guys trying to make a dummy of Phil to fly across the room. And Phil, who was, I guess, from New York, I think, or New Jersey or something like that, he was like, Jesus, I spent the whole 70s doing dwarf tosses. Use me. Just throw me. And this was being shot in this big McMansion in the valley. And it was the sort of stunt that everybody gets together to watch. And there was this big room that's my office in Blood Dolls, and it's in this kind of, I guess it's the ballroom or something. It's got a huge high ceiling. And it's got a minstrel gallery looking in on from the second floor into it, and all of this. And we had this giant Serbian AD who was going to throw Phil, and they set up cushions and stuff and all that. So everybody's going to watch it and stuff. And Milos heaves Phil across the room, and everything seems to go great. And as soon as it's done, the first AD turns around, looks up to the minstrel gallery up above and says, "Judges," and 3 guys up there held up scorecards. It was just one of those experiences that made me think, like, my day at work was your day at work. thing too. He was like, oh, People's Association, they'd be pissed if they knew I was doing this. And we started going off on this whole thing about getting publicity for the movie by making that a thing, so that there would be protesters, dwarfs and midgets protesting. Phil being tossed, and then Phil on the other side of the barricades going, fuck you, I'm gonna fly. I'm sorry, I guess you'll have to bleep this out or not, I don't know.
Oh, no, I think we'll be okay.
It's the way it was. So that was a lot of fun. There was another thing that I'll never forget from that movie. There's one point where, these other characters are getting chopped up with these horrible devices and stuff. And so there's blood squirting all over the place. Mm-hmm. I remember I was outside and I saw one of the young effects guys coming out. He was just like completely splattered with stage blood and stuff. And he just had this expression on his face. It was like, God, right now this kid's got to be like the happiest person in the world. Because he was getting to do this stuff, I think effects makeup people might be some of the happiest people around when things are going well. Let's see, anything you wanted to ask about those? I always also, my career has been like a lot of people's. I've done big parts in little things and little parts in big things. And I have always had more fun working on a low-budget horror movie than working on some great big blockbuster movie.
Yeah. I've interviewed a few actors. They prefer doing low-budget films than these, big mega films,
Yeah. It's just kind of more relaxed and down to earth and fun, as opposed to there being lots of egos and also sort of the pressure that much money puts on everybody, because a hell of a lot of money is just like ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching every minute. As opposed to a low-budget movie, which is still expensive, but not as expensive.
Mm-hmm. Sure, yeah. And in low budget, I find, because I've did a few independent films, as an actor, you kind of have more freedom in a low-budget movie with your character, Well,
that's going to depend on the writer, director, producer.
Yeah.
Because I've worked with both kinds. I've worked with people, that kind of see their script as kind of more like a blueprint. Mm-hmm. So it's like directions, and then others like David Milch, who he was part of the Bochco shows like NYPD Blue and Brooklyn South that I was on. And what did he do? Did he do Deadwood? At any rate, he's considered one of the best TV writers around. And in that show, and this was not just to me as a guest star, this was to the series regulars and stuff. You do a take, and the script supervisor's coming over and telling you that it was an and not an in that line. It was like, you say those words like Mr. Milch wrote them. You do not make it feel a little better in your mouth. You figure out how to make it work. And I had the same experience in theater before, too.
Yeah. My next question to you is, and I know we talked a little bit about this, but what is the most challenging part for you being an actor? What do you find are some of the difficult things in the industry?
Well, the hardest thing is getting work.